As a CFO, I've overseen hundreds of millions of dollars in transactions. The number one thing I've learned is that if you want to sell your startup in the next 2 to 5 years, then you need to look like a company that is worth buying. In this video, I'm going to share 3 key areas you need to focus on to become an investable company worth buying and to sell for millions of dollars. This whole video is packed with values, so make sure that you watch it until the end. And if you're new here, hit that subscribe button. Let's get into it. To get crystal clear on what a company that looks like buying looks like, we need to break things down into 3 distinct areas of focus. The first is a healthy financial function. First and foremost, I want to call out here that I intentionally say financial function rather than simply financials. A healthy financial function for a company worth buying spans beyond just what your financial statement looks like. It's a function of your business and it should be treated as such. Now, I've worked with thousands of founders since I've been in the game as a CFO, and I think that this is a fundamental miss for most people that I talk to. When they think about finance, they think about basic bookkeeping, and that doesn't cut it whenever millions of dollars are on the line. They don't treat it with the respect that an entire function of an organization deserves. So to explain this, I need to break things down into the 2 distinct areas of finance: the past of finance and then the future of finance. And both of these are critically important for being a company worth buying. The past of finance is how you showcase your numbers. These are numbers that have already happened, but just like any numbers, they're open to interpretation. For example, how you display revenue will directly influence the price tag that a buyer is going to put on your company. We all have revenue, but not all revenue is created equally. Some types of revenue are valued higher, much higher than other types of revenue. For example, software revenue is way more valuable than services revenue. If I'm charging for software, then I'm charging access to technology that I own. It costs me very little to continue to sell more of that technology, and because I own it, I'm the only person in the world that can sell it. Compare this to services where it costs a lot more money to add more clients. For every client that I sign, I have to have somebody in charge of doing the work for that client. And because this work is being done by a human and anybody can hire specialized people, I'm pretty undifferentiated in the marketplace. So because of these differences of revenue, it's really important to highlight the most valuable revenue and draw a clear and easy to read line between revenue types. If you don't draw this line, then buyers will. And since the buyers are in charge of drawing the lines, and since the buyers have the incentive to get a deal on the purchase price, and since you don't have any leverage in having done the work and knowing where the lines are to begin with, 9 times out of 10, you're going to get a smaller price tag. And the difference in price tags can be really meaningful. There have been a lot of estimates that being proactive about how you display finances can affect the valuation by 1 to 3x annual revenue. So this could be millions of dollars or even tens of millions of dollars. So spending some extra time doing the work and getting it right could be one of the highest return on investment activities that you have ever done. So that's the past of finance. And now I want to talk about the future of finance. At the end of the day, any transaction comes down to a negotiation, and being able to tell a good story helps with negotiations. You need to be able to tell a good story about the future of your business, and you need to be able to put tangible financial outcomes behind that story. It's called the promise of the future. The buyer's not buying you because of what you've done in the past. They're buying you because they're interested in what can be done in the future. So telling a compelling financial story is going to make the future look brighter. And this work will allow buyers to do their own math and understand the potential return that they can get on their investment. The larger the future financial outcome for the buyer, the more they can afford to spend today. I can afford to spend a lot of money today if the money that I expect to get in the future is going to be much, much higher. If I have a very low expectation for future, then I'm not going to be able to spend as much today to get that same ROI. This is where forecasting comes in. If you can show them a crystallized future that they can receive from buying your company, you're going to make telling your story that much easier. It's also going to reassure the investor that you're the type of person that prepares for the future. If you come across somebody who has not thought about the future of their company, that highlights a chink in their armor. Having a good financial plan for your company is another way to hint that you built a strong organization, and it can tell a great story at the same time. The second area of focus is data and KPI tracking. I want you to think of this like a circuit board that shows how your company actually runs. This is all of the data showing all of the intricacies and the economics of your business. How many customers do you bring in per month? How many do you lose? How many times do they pay you? What's the average amount of money that they pay you? How many leads do you get per month, per quarter, per year? This really helps crystallize how the business works today and gives the buyer insight about how the business could work in the future. There's a confidence boost that comes with having well flushed out metrics and KPIs. If you track this stuff religiously and you have a clear understanding of your numbers, it's yet another hint to the buyer that you you've built a strong business. Good understanding of numbers equals high likelihood of a good business. Lack of understanding of numbers equals high likelihood of a bad business. It's also worth mentioning that if you don't have all of your business metrics tracked and ready for analysis, then the buyers are going to have to do the work and get those metrics themselves. Going to get the numbers they need one way or another. They're going to need to see the story for themselves, but are they going to create the story for themselves, or are they going to lean into the story that you provide? Not only are you going to be better off telling your own story, but you're going to save time in the process of due diligence. Time kills all deals. The best deals are deals that get done quickly, and anything that prolongs the process is a negative. The good news is that there are plenty of softwares that can automate pretty much all of this. Software like Baremetrics and ChartMogul and even Stripe do most of the heavy lifting for you. You can do some work to slice the data to your liking and use these tools to your advantage to be able to tell a more compelling story. This is important whenever it comes to selling your business. Again, it's all about telling a good story. Making sure that your metrics are telling a story of a business that's worth buying. The third area of focus is due diligence preparation. This is also known as the data room. And if you don't know what a data room is, it's a repository of organized files that contain all interesting and relevant information about your company. I think about it like this. I'm in the market to buy a new car, and I happen to see somebody that drives the exact type of car that I'm into, and it has a for sale sign in it. Since it seems like a cool car, and since I'm in the market, I decided to stop the owner and ask him a few questions like how old the car is, if it's ever been in an accident, are there any maintenance issues, what's the gas mileage, etc. All pretty standard questions that I would want to know before I buy a car. Imagine the owner has absolutely no idea what the answer to any of these questions are. They don't have the title, the car manual, or any relevant documents, and they say that they're going to have to spend months finding these documents and doing the research to answer all of my questions. How likely is it that I'm going to buy that car? The owner's clearly not organized and seems to have very little information about the car that he's been driving for several years. It makes me wonder, how well has it been treating this car? Now imagine the exact opposite scenario. What if I ask him about the car and he immediately produces a Carfax report with corresponding Kelley Blue Book values with receipts from all the times that it's been serviced, as well as a review from a trusted mechanic talking about how well the car is functioning? I'd probably feel pretty good about buying the car at that point. The seller clearly has everything put together and gives me real confidence that they have been a good owner so that I'm not just sinking a bunch of money into a limit. Now take this exact same logic and apply it to a much larger transaction that's millions of dollars, not thousands. You get the idea. The same psychology works whenever you're selling your business. If you're the type of entrepreneur that has everything ready to go and organized, it's going to give buyers much more confidence that this is a good decision. If instead you're completely disorganized and run around chasing down data, then if somebody shows any interest in buying your company, you're not going to look like a good investment. To be proactive about this, you're going to need to put together a data room. Your data room is going to be incredibly well organized and up to date at all times so that even if a buyer comes out of nowhere, you're going to look incredibly well prepared. Being prepared in a moment where it would be reasonable for you not to be prepared will add an additional layer of confidence to a buyer. If a transaction came out of nowhere, but you already have all of your files detailed, organized, and accounted for, you are a trustworthy and proactive entrepreneur. You've probably built a great business. You've probably built a business that you don't need to dig too deep into because it clearly has been managed super well. This all lends to the psychology of the buyer and feeling safe about the transaction. Anything that you can do proactively to make a buyer feel good about their decision to buy your company is going to lead to a greater likelihood of the transaction closing and a higher probability that you're going to get the highest possible price when they buy your company. Now that you know how to look like a company that's worth buying, click this video to learn more about how to value a startup without revenue.